All right, let's get going. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. This is episode 5 of the Survivor Roysan Northfield Farm behind the scenes podcast. We're going to be talking about episode 7, which is the big merge episode. I've got a little tidbit of information is the name of the episode. That's what we're going to be diving into. Thank you for coming back, watching the podcast. As always, my name is JJ Moran. I'm the host of Survivor Roysan Northfield Farm. I am joined, as always, by our executive producer and co-director, Liam Houghton.
Hello. Thanks for having me back.
Of course. And this week, we've got a very, very special, this is a special episode, special occasion and everything. It's the merge week, so we thought we would invite somebody else on this time around. We've talked about him probably more than any other of the behind-the-scenes production staff. Our prop master, one of our lead camera operators, and a former contestant himself, longtime friend of the show, friend of everything, and big helping hand around Survivor Roysan, Mike Casey.
Woo! Hey, everybody. Thank you, JJ, for the very kind words.
Of course. Like I said, I think you are actually probably the name. I feel like once an episode we go like, and then Mike did this or Mike built this. So we've brought Mike on this episode. We're going to talk after we get through the episode. We'll do our normal thing and talk about all the things that happened this week in episode 7. But then we're going to dive in a little bit at the end of the episode to talk to Mike about like what he's done for us this season and kind of in the past seasons for helping us with like prop design. Mike does a lot of woodworking. We'll get into all that. That being said, it's kind of funny. We were just saying this before we hit record that this is one of the only episodes that none of Mike's big props and like woodworking things ended up in the episode.
Yeah, this episode and I think the tug of war episode are the only ones so far where I didn't touch anything with any of the challenges or anything like that.
Of course, that's the way it works. So
yeah, we'll give a shout out to wife of executive producer Becca for. She created the individual immunity necklace, and then she also made the bowls that we put the little chips in. So shout out. Becca.
So I think what you're saying is we should have had Becca on this episode and none.
Yeah.
Oh, tough. Well, so we're happy to have you, Mike.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, all right. Well, without further ado, let's get into it, and then, like I said, we can talk about the props and the challenges and stuff that you've worked on at the end of the episode. So this one kicks off. We've done a few weeks in a row. These episodes have started with a cold open, and this week's cold open before we jump into the theme song is catching up with Pittman since they left the gross egg eating challenge from the week before. And the big story there is that Jen and Karen's idol handoff was not as sneaky as they thought. Megan caught it, and word is going around camp, and so that's what's happening right there. Mike, were you the camera operator working at Pittman at that time?
I believe, yeah, I remember being there for that. I was with Gibson for the first day, and then I went with Darren and Jen when the swap happened.
What was that like? Because that's a moment that I was nowhere near their camp when that actually happened.
Yeah, everybody there was pissed about it. Everyone there was so mad about the idol play. You hear them in the episode talking about how mad they are. They were lied to too, which I always roll my eyes at because it's Survivor. But they were all mad about that. They were mad about the idol play. At one point, a couple of them even came up to me, like behind the camera, just asking, "Is that even allowed?" Because they thought they were breaking some kind of rule or something with it. Which no rules broken. It was allowed. They were allowed to give out an idol. But yeah, they were not happy about that.
I edited out a lot of looks to the camera or looks to Mike probably is I don't even know if that's the rules. Is that the rules? But the rule is if it makes good YouTube, then it can happen. That's the rule.
Well, and also, I mean, like, it's funny that they actually asked that because in the episode, I think it would have been the episode 4, or was just the beginning of last week's episode. Doesn't matter. They're all blended together for me. Where when they find it at Gibson, swap episode, so that would have been 2 weeks ago. When they find it at Gibson initially, and they all go on the group hunt together, Jen says, "Oh yeah, if someone loses, we'll just have to hand it off." And that was when she thought about it originally. Was a while ago now. And Harris, when he was still on the show, goes, "Wait, can we do that?" And then she goes, "It doesn't say we can't." And so that is true. Nowhere on the parchment that comes with those idols does it say non-transferable. Like this is your idol. You can do what you want with it. I like it. I thought it's funny. I mean, I think at least, like Mike, you said that they were all pissed on camp around camp. I think that comes across on camera. Like especially Ashley and Vega are just ripped about it. Like they're not happy at all. Yeah. So anyway, so I don't really think that. I mean, I think it's funny too that Zach. You can see Zach sitting right in the middle too in that conversation. Like he's trying to play the like, yeah, I'm also mad about this, but then like, hey guys, why don't we just go talk to her? I could go say something if you guys want. And then and Vega's like, you can go say what you could ask her. I don't care. Like doesn't change the fact that I'm pissed at her.
Yeah. I think this feeds into the whole sociology of Survivor, as if there's people on the outs and then they do something that slightly pisses you off, it's going to piss you off way more than it normally should. Yes. So if you're on the outs and someone gives you a reason to even more they're going to take it.
Well, and they bring it up all the time. I mean, Mike, you kind of did just say this where you were like, I think it's funny that they're like, can you believe she lied to us about this? It's like, yes, obviously. Like, you guys know you're not on the same side of the vote if you had to go to tribal today. And so obviously, like, she's not going to tell you. There's no scenario that they had told her their entire truths. You know what I mean? So it's just like, it's funny that they got so up in arms about it.
Yeah, but I think that feeds into Liam's point perfectly. Like they're looking for any excuse to single someone out and put them on the outs. And even though they're there lying to their face, it's not that doesn't matter. It's that you lied to me.
Yes. And so it's funny and then just like the last thing I just want to bring up on this segment was that we had talked about last week how the actual handoff happens pretty inconspicuously if you're watching the egg eating challenge. What's also funny about it in my mind is that when we then cut to Karen talking about the handoff, again, this is in last week's episode, there's that moment where like we replay the moment. So at this point in last week's episode, you see that same moment 2 times. I replay it, like I added it to the edit for a 3rd time this week because something I didn't even really notice upon doing the whole edit process for last week's episode is it is pretty clear that Megan does see them. Like Megan's head is fully turned around when they're making that handoff happen. And that's something that, like, again, if you're watching in those first 2 years, like, wow, look at those, the first 2 times we played it in episode 6, is that it's just like, oh, wow, look at these guys. They were so sly and quick about it, but they're really not. Like Megan is standing right there. Her head is fully cocked around. Like she's just looking right at him. Yeah.
And I took this clip out, but they're talking about it on the walk back from the challenge. So, yeah. I think I threw that in editorialized the previously on of they handed it off in the open.
Yeah. But you know what? To your point, it made for great entertaining YouTube. And Vega even says that actually at one point. He goes like, yeah, you can go talk to her. It'll be great for the feed. And at that moment, I think I've already cut to Zach sitting in camp with Jen, but like he points right at the camera when he says that sort of thing. So it's funny. All right. And then, so we go through the theme song and then it's merch time, the moment that everybody has all been waiting for, and they get so excited. Like this was a great reaction on camera, I thought, especially from the Gibson tribe.
Yeah, well, we don't see the Pittman tribe because they're pissed. Or I forget what the clip is, but they're like, oh, maybe it's not the merge. Maybe it's not the merge. And then the team that's desperate for the merge it's definitely the merge. Woohoo, let's go. So.
I mean, Rachel's reaction on camera is so funny. It's so cute because it's like you can say like the desperate is the perfect word for it. Like her and Karen, they've been through the ringer at that point, so they were just so ready for to get out of this terrible situation, and they made it through. And so yeah, she's got her hands in the air. Oh my gosh, she said like 3 times in a row. It's so funny. I've watched it so many times at this point. That moment makes me laugh so hard. But yeah, no, I mean. And then we bring them all together, drop the truth bomb on them that they are going to be, they're all heading towards a final tribal of 2 with a jury of 7, meaning that since this is a group of 10 at this moment, someone is not going to make the merge. Sad. What do you guys remember from that moment when we had them all lined up at the base of tribal?
Yeah, it's a twist that we're just taking old school Survivor. This is what they did every single season for the first 7 seasons. So, yeah, it was honestly a bigger reaction than I thought we were going to get for this one. And it just shows that if you can take some old twists and dust them off, and it's fresh and new again.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun after. Well, they got the news that they were all going to be merged, so spirits were riding high. They were all excited. Then they got there, got that put on them, and it kind of immediately put a damper on them. And I think with the added pressure of someone's going home and not being on the jury, really kind of sunk into these players' minds.
Yeah, it soured the mood a little bit in that case. Like, especially considering, we always jump ahead a little bit and start talking about tribal before we actually get to tribal, but Rachel ends up being the one who goes home. I'm just talking about how Rachel was by far the most excited person to hear the news that she had made the merge. And so it is, it's sad. It takes away a little bit from that like excitement that they've all made the merge. We're all going to be going to, final tribal, whether we're sitting there or on the jury. And then, but yeah, no, it's not the case. We had never given out champagne, correct? This was the first time that we ever like literally handed off champagne. Am I mistaken on that, Lane?
No, we've given champagne before. Lakes region, we did. I think we've given it before, almost. I don't know. Yep. We've definitely done it before, and I think it's usually the tribe drinks half a bottle and then doesn't touch the rest.
Well, we saw how that went at the swamp too when we're trying to get them wine.
Exactly.
And they're like, Darren very adamantly does not want to be drinking in that moment. Do you have any water for me, Jay? So yeah, no, I'm trying to think. And then, I mean, like I didn't know if I had much more to say about the actual merge moment itself. I don't know, interject if you guys do. But before we go to the challenge, you do get to see that moment of a little tension between Zach and Ashley, who have now been hanging out together. They did not get separated at the swap, so the two of them have just been in each other's face for the last few days. There seems to not be a lot going on there in terms of friendship. So the two of them are starting to butt heads a little bit, and then it comes to it's not the biggest blow up, but again, I wasn't there. So Mike, how was that in person?
It was just one of those little things that just kind of what Liam was saying earlier, again, just fed into what the hell, why are you doing this? So I wasn't at that camp for the entirety of it, but apparently Zach had a bad habit of getting the tree mail and stoking the fire. Like every single time, like they had to do something, like he would feed the fire,
which is such a weird move.
So I don't know if it was just getting low. Like I think they were always trying to time it so that like, hey, the fire's out, we go to our challenge, we got nothing to worry about. But he just keep feeding into it, so it just kind of came to a blow of that, where you hear her say, "What the hell? You do this every time."
Yeah, this was a big proof of concept as I was going through the edit, because if you've noticed our Survivor, we don't take away food or camp. They can take whatever they want, tents and sleeping bags. And my whole theory behind that is you're going to form a bond, a community a lot quicker if you're hanging out by the fire, camping with luxuries, rather than trying to build a shelter and starving for 2 days. And I took this as, I don't think a little tiff like this would have happened if they're like rationing food and everyone's like on their best behavior. This is something that would happen if you're camping with friends and one of your friends keeps on doing something slightly annoying. You're going to call them out for it, This is Survivor was not happening in that moment. This was friends camping and one person's throwing sticks on the fire and you have a little blow up. So I was pretty excited when I stumbled upon this clip.
Like, again, for the most part, we've mentioned on these other episodes where it's like, and kind of to what you were saying, Liam, like, we're not starving these people, like, other than like when people get a little competitive, like, people are generally there just to have a good time. Like, this weekend is fun. Everybody shows up and they have a good time, cast and crew alike. So we don't have the traditional reality show blow up arguments that you might see on television. So when these little moments come out, we also do embellish them a little bit because they make for good television. And again, we don't, these moments are kind of few and far between. People aren't there to really be at each other's throats. They're all there in good faith and having a good time. So it makes for a fun moment, but again, it really was nothing. I mean, like, the camera zooms in at Zach at one point, he just kind of goes, he shrugs it off like he doesn't really care. So that seems like how it was. The other thing, unless you guys want to mention one more thing about their little fight that I wanted to mention before we move on to the challenge, is I wrote a note. This is the return of Patty this episode. It's kind of the unofficial return, because you can see Patty walk through the shot, by my money, it was the first time in the last episode. She was hanging out with us when we were doing the egg eating challenge. But then, is it Matt that specifically says, he's like, "Oh, we could," when they're talking about when they're brainstorming what they could name the new tribe. He goes, "We can name ourselves Patty, like after Patty, because we're all black. She's a black lab." And then we got her on screen, which for us is fun because after having done this as the 6th season, Patty has been on camera a million other times in the past.
Yeah, she's a staple of Northfield Farm. She'll bring the smallest stick over to you, asking to get a toss. And I think this year is the best we've done of shooting around her. And she's getting older.
That's really what it was. I mean, like the early seasons, you could literally, I mean, she would just be around the it just used to feel like I would just watch this dog get so excited when all the campers would show up, because she would be like, "Oh my God, who are all these people that I get to play with this weekend? Like all these people that can throw sticks, balls, and everything for me." But yeah, no, she was adorable. Mike, how do you feel about Patty?
Oh, Patty is, she's the best. She's an absolute staple of the farm. She always gets so excited when you show up. And I can speak to, I know my own year. I remember her being there, and she would always follow the losing tribe. So it just, it just made losing a little bit less bad.
She's an emotional support dog in that way.
Exactly. Yes.
But no, I mean, like, again, in the old seasons too, when she was a little more, again, I think she's getting old, so she's not following, she's not doing the laps around the farm as the way that she used to. And she would follow everybody around. I guess the loser, she would know intuitively to go hang out with the sad people. But there were so many shots where you would have two people having a conversation, and even if you couldn't see her in the shot, all you could hear is hot summer day and the dog is tired, but she just wants to keep playing the entire time, and the amount of edits that we'd have to throw out of the sticks and the balls getting thrown around for her. But no, Patty's great. And so this is the official return of Patty. But again, this is something where like we used to have to edit her out. And I remember, Liam, when you were first working on this episode, maybe a month or so ago, 2 months ago, you texted me and you were like, "Do you have any clips of Patty on your phone, or have you seen any on the hard drive? Because like I don't have any of her, and this is, which is the first time we've ever had that problem, is not having footage of Patty."
Be careful for what you wish for with the as soon as you need a Patty shot, you don't have a Patty shot.
Of course. And that was just from somebody's phone, right? That wasn't actually like her.
I think that was you as like a personal video taking the Wednesday before the game started.
Yeah,
so
that's funny. Well, anyway, so we love Patty. So shout out to the amazing Black Lab Patty. And we move on to the coin challenge, which I thought was a lot of fun. I got to work on the edit for this one, which was it was really kind of the first thing that, like, because I worked on this like months ago, and this was like the first thing outside of the theme song that I was really putting together in an edit format. And so I feel like I've watched the segment a billion times at this point, but I thought it was great fun. Something that maybe we'll release on YouTube as a behind the scenes thing is that something that we did for this challenge that did not end up making the edit because it just was going to take up too much time is I got to talk to the campers as they would go to and from the table where they would distribute the coins, and we filmed all of that as well. So like I would pick them up. Well, actually, Mike, why don't you talk about, because you were one of the production staff that was watching over, and none of this makes it onto camera. What were they doing when they weren't doing the coin challenge?
So when they weren't actively participating, or I guess when they weren't on camera, we had them pull their buffs down over their eyes like blindfolds. We had them basically all sitting back to back in a circle, and I put a speaker in the middle of all of them and just blasted music. So they couldn't talk, they couldn't do anything but think to themselves. And the rules for that challenge were absolute silence. So we accomplished that in an effective way. Yeah,
I think it worked out great. That was a great method to keep everyone quiet. Shout out to JJ. It was a great edit. The interesting took this challenge from Big Brother. I think going into the edit, I said try to make this look as not like a Survivor challenge as possible and unique storytelling, and I think it turned out great. So
thank you.
Shout out JJ. Big round of applause.
All the day's work.
So yeah, JJ, huge shout out. I think I texted both of you last night as soon as I watched the episode, but the the music timing with them putting the chips in the bowls is just phenomenally
Thank you.
done.
I've had a few all-nighters for this season of Survivor, like in the lab editing, and that was one because like I found a track and I was like, oh, this would be cool to have a little like, because I just noticed, because you just when you go to sit down and edit something, you just review the footage a lot first. And something that I just noticed naturally from going through the footage was there obviously a lot of clicks, a lot of like ting 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 ting, people placing. But then also too, like there's the moment where like I had like back to back of people just they're all separate. They all did this individually, and yet you find people falling into the exact same patterns. They all end up doing kind of the same thing, which is we asked them to talk out loud, but we didn't really put it. So some people talked, like Ashley talked a ton. She said every thought that was going through her head. And then there was people like Darren and Matt who were way more reserved about it. They kind of sat there, they would think for a long time, and then maybe right before they placed the chips, they would say something small. We didn't really give them too many instructions, like other than there's the 3 minutes edit where I literally am giving them instructions, because that part was funny too. Reviewing the footage, it's like it's me trying to say the same thing over and over again to 10 people, and and some people got it immediately, and some people had a million questions throughout the whole thing. And so it was just like, it was funny for me to just watch like how I was like kept just like on repeat, was just saying the same thing over. So I thought it was worth the kind of like gimmicky little edit. But yeah, again, you just see people falling into the same kind of patterns, especially with like the moment that I love the most from this edit is when Karen is talking about no. Megan is talking about Karen, and she says like Karen seems really thinking, I really want to push Karen over, but I don't want to give her all these chips and get her too far. And then it cuts to Karen, and she goes, Megan seems strong. I want to get her over, but I don't want to give her the chips and get her really close. Like they were literally talking about each other, and they had the same exact thought process about each other too. Like it was the same thing. They both said it out loud in such similar words too. It was just so like almost like eerie to watch. So anyways, the thing that I was starting to mention earlier that did not make the edit is I would pick them up from Mike and Mike's little blindfolded music area, which was tucked around the corner where I originally like say hello to them at the beginning of the challenge. I'd pick them up, we would walk all the way to the challenge, I would give them the instruction, they'd place the chips, and then we would walk back, and we filmed both of those walking tours of me with each of the campers. And I got a lot of good like I just asked them, how's the weekend going? Like, what do you feel like is you're at the merge? Like, what's going on for you? What do you think is your strong point of your game? And they said some interesting stuff. It just ultimately was not fitting into the edit. So we didn't, I cut it out. I ended up not using any of that footage, but it's good footage. So we might put it on YouTube at some point. It's just kind of interesting.
This going outside the box with a Survivor challenge, you run into, you find yourself missing shots. We didn't pick up the final results of it all. Vega won with 24, so he was right there. And I want to say Karen had 22 chips, so she was in second place. So challenge beast Karen, almost winning the first individual immunity challenge. And that would have been a fun result.
Could have really switched things around. But yeah, no, it is funny that we didn't get that shot, because we did get a shot of everybody looking at the table. And then we did get a shot of just Vegas chips, but we didn't get a shot of anybody else's chips. So yeah, it's funny. Again, we hadn't really done anything like this before, but it was definitely well worth it. I thought it was a fun challenge.
No, it was great. It was fun. Fun merge challenge.
And it's fun too, because when I'm at the merge and I just gave the moment that we merge them, and I say like, hey, we're there's next one of you isn't going to make the jury, and I say like, but this is what you need to get like the motivation you need to get through the next competition. And I kind of meant like, I don't think I was thinking about it in these terms when I said it, but I make it sound at that moment like they're gonna have to like fight for the next challenge. And then it's an all mental challenge. It's all just sitting there thinking. It's not a physical in any way, this challenge. So it's kind of funny. I don't think I was meant to do that, but I thought it's kind of funny how it comes out in the edit. It's like, you gotta fight for this next challenge to make it to the jury. And then they just have to sit there and think, basically. And we move on. So we're pushing 25 minutes this, so let's start to wrap things up a little bit. Chaotic camp life, though. We can't skip ahead too quickly to get to tribal. A lot going on in that time period. What do you guys remember?
Yeah, I think it comes down to last episode. Matt and Michelle said we're going to position ourselves as a swing vote. Zach said the same thing, trying to be friendly, position himself as a swing vote, and I think that's what it came down to. Darren was kind of floating, but it really came down to, are we going to split on Karen and Jen, and will that split open the door for maybe a blind side? And from what I remember going through the footage, that conversation between Zach, Michelle, and Matt at the end is pretty much what it came down to. That was the decision point. If they chose to vote Ashley, she would have went with 5 votes, but they chose original Pittman. And Rachel went home with the workaround of, do we split? Paranoid about split. The easy way out is to go for the person that you're confident they won't play the idol for.
Yeah, from this camp, I just remember there being absolute chaos between everyone talking and forming groups and the plan and the fake plan. And I don't think I was the one to film that final one where they decided what they were going to do, but just being at the camp, I don't always have the correct information. I don't always know what's going on. I'm only seeing what these players are saying to each other. I'm not seeing what they're saying to you or the truth. So this one for me, it's probably in our old group chat, but saying, yeah, no idea this time. Like, just could be one of 4 people.
That, like, it might almost be it might be funny for some BTS stuff to pull some of that text, because we have a group chat going through. We don't really have like walkie talkies or anything like that, so we just all talk into a text chat the whole weekend. And there's probably some funny like information that could come out of that if we like dug up some of those old texts. But yeah, no, I mean, this is I don't really remember from doing my confessionals, because it's kind of hard to, like, what I do remember, there's certain rounds of voting where people come to your confession and everybody, you can just tell, is on the same page and nothing is changing. And this, all I remember was this wasn't that. It was like, there's a lot of people sitting down to do your confessionals being like, I think it's going this, but as soon as I leave you, as soon as we finish this confessional, I have to go have 5 more conversations. So it might change for me between now and then. And so that's always exciting when you're filming it, because it's like, you know, it's one thing when everybody's saying the same name and you go like, okay, in a half hour, this person's going to be gone. And it didn't feel that way. It was not definitive that Rachel was going to be going home while I was filming confessionals with everybody. Which is cool. And also, Mike, you and I have had a little bit of shared experience in that we've both been contestants on this show before. I think this is pretty consistent with what merge vote outs feel like. Like, I remember from Merrimack Madness, we made it to the merge, and it was the same thing after that first challenge at the merge. It's just, you know, it's chaotic.
I can't speak to the same experience from Revival because there was just unanimous me, but I think the next one was chaotic.
But even that one was like, I think it was a 5 or 6 merge, and it was trying to get Sean to flip, and it was up in the air. But then I think the writing was on the wall, but the opening was there. And I want to say Merrimack Madness was almost exactly this. It was Erica and Sam potentially being the swing, and then it was Tremern but it was Tremern or Andrew with the idol, and then it was go for the third option.
So it's always a little chaotic at this moment in the game, which is fun. Sorry to bring up those bad memories though for you, Mike. You played, you did get, that was your second time playing, so maybe your first merge experience was a little better. I know it was better than getting voted out then. So. All right, so we skip ahead. Let's get to Tribal. I wrote a handful of notes of Tribal. They're all just kind of okay. One. The first thing that I have to say, this has nothing to do with the game. This is just, I feel like in general, we were talking about Patty being in and out of production. I mean, being in and out of shots, and less so this season. I feel like we did a pretty good job this season, better than in the past, of keeping us out of production, out of the shots, keeping production members out. Taylor, who's one of our camera operators, has an awesome moment of walking behind the rest of the campers as they're going up to Tribal, if you watch for it, and then he stops in his tracks, looks up, and then just immediately like backs out into the woods, which is just funny. It felt like that's something that used to happen in just like our older seasons. Every episode there would be 1 or 2 people that'd be walking into a shot when they shouldn't be there, sort of thing. And it just made me laugh because it felt like an old thing for us. And then we get into the vote. This is another Tribal where there's a lot of a lot of people just saying things that sound nice. Nobody's actually saying that, what they're actually thinking, sort of thing. A lot of talking at this tribal that just, let's get to the vote sort of thing. I don't know. Any other notes, Liam?
Yeah, I was going to say it kind of reflects what was going back at camp. I think Michelle and Zach both say, "Oh, it was crazy," but they're the ones in the swing position, and yeah, it came down to what they wanted.
I did like Megan, who just says, "I told people to stop talking to me because I didn't want to." I picked the name. I was told one thing, and I'm not changing it. Which when these things get crazy,
it's not a bad strategy.
Yeah, when things get crazy like this, that is it's just I'm gonna stick with my guns, and I'm doing this. I also wrote, this was a note that I wrote. The birds were loud at this tribal. There's a lot of Tweety birds in the trees this go around.
You really don't know where people's heads are at until the votes are read. And unfortunately for me and Karen, this is our first time working with some of these people. So we're going to find out soon who's true to their word and who is not.
They were singing this tribal. Yeah. Anything else though? Rachel goes home. Any other major notes from tribal?
I filmed Rachel's exit confessional. I could say she was a really great sport about it. It was sad to see her go. She was great.
Yeah, and she's another case of she's not local anymore, but she's from New Hampshire. So her missing the jury, she was able to go home and see her family. So it wasn't the worst outcome in the world.
Yeah. Just to follow up on what Mike was saying, she was a great sport. She was not one of the people, like Liam just said, we talked about those who kind of stuck around the whole weekend versus who didn't, and she split after this. But we were happy to have her. Rachel was great, and again, just a really great competitor. I felt like she was pretty sad. You kind of see that on camera. This is one of the first like genuinely. I think she was pretty bummed that she went home, and we were sad to see her go because
she got to name the merge tribe, though. She got the name.
Totally. I didn't actually bring that up, but the Akatsuki tribe, which is probably one of the better names I think any one of us have come up with. Like, there's been a lot of just like, I think last season we just jammed Suncook and Gibson together. I mean, Kohas. So it was just Sunhas. Yeah, Sunhas. Yeah. First year we ever did this, it was Harambe. We named it after the dead gorilla. Like we had some weird
timestamp on that one.
Yeah, totally.
That's a perfect. I think we filmed it summer of 2016. So
this was like actually like a new dawn, a new day. Dawn in Japanese, Akatsuki. Like I actually look it up too because I kind of wanted to make sure that I was like, is that actually what dawn? Not one of these like it means spring roll or something like that. So like looked it up and sure enough, yeah, it does. It means the dawn.
Well, I think after she got out, she hung out for a little bit and had a drink or two. And then one of our other production team members, Jacob, drove her so she could go home. And I think she was laughing that it's the bad guy, the name of the bad guys from Naruto. So that's pretty funny. I think she did take Japanese in high school, but I think she took the name from.
Oh, She did. She gave me a wink when she did that because I kind of grinned when she suggested that name because I understood what she was saying. So I got it. Isaiah knew immediately what she meant by it too, and then I wasn't sure if you guys had known or not, but I was going to bring it up tonight either way.
I mean, it kind of works. That like the color scheme that we gave them is black, and so they, like the darkness within them or something like that. I don't know. And plus, at that point, it started to feel like she probably felt in that moment like she had just gotten thrown to the wolves. Like she was very much in the minority among the Pittman people. So
based off the comments that we have been getting on the episodes, it does seem that Pittman are the bad guys. So
it's funny. I agree. Like the first comment that we got was like, I'm not happy with this result. I was like, ooh, sorry, buddy. But yeah, I mean, I felt like first few episodes I was getting people texting me how much they love Pittman. Pittman's so much fun. But now, the second that somebody starts to do well, you want to see them lose.
Yep. It's the tale as old as time.
Exactly. And then the last thing I want to bring up in the episode, and then we'll get to let's talk about your challenges, Mike. But I wrote, this is the second week in a row, if you watch the episode where we end the next time on Survivor, the last shot is Megan looking very confused about something. So if you go back and watch it was the week before I kind of prepped the coin challenge, and she's going, this is tricky. And then next week it's how will the parchment change the game. And then it's just a zoom in her face and she just looks so confused. And I was like, is this mean? Like, I'm just 2 weeks in a row, I'm just making this look like she has no clue what's going on, but not no clue. She's just a little confused. So anyways, I wrote that, made me laugh. All right, so that was the episode. We're way past time, but let's get into it for a few minutes. So Mike, you like have worked on all of the big woodworking pieces that we've seen so far this season, and a few that are coming up later in the season that we don't spoil anything on, but maybe without spoiling, what was your favorite piece that you worked on? And most challenging, like, let us know, like, what was the process looking like for you over the last few years?
So a lot of it, well, obviously you guys were there for the meetings. It took a while to decide what we wanted for challenges, and then I don't know if you can either like impose it over this or link it in the description or something, but I know on the drive I still have the original plans I made for almost all of this stuff. So then I made the plans for it once we decided what we wanted to do, and then it was just a matter of making it. I don't know how to explain it any better than that. That's just how my woodworking works, I guess. But as far as building them goes, I wanted to talk a little bit about, so the majority of what you see, almost everything you see in episode 1, except for maybe the 4x4 posts, that was all made with pallet wood, like recycled pallets and everything. So a lot of this stuff had a very, very minimal cost to it, which was great for
where to get the
us in
pallets
production. From? There's luckily enough, there's like a little industrial park down the street from me with like a pool store that constantly has piles of them. They put them out for people to take, otherwise they have to pay to get rid of them. So it works out really well. To your first question, I think I have 2 favorites from this season. One was the vertical puzzle that you saw in episode 1. I think that it came out really clean.
It looks awesome
great
on camera. Like in the shots where we do the little dream team footage, every time I rewatch it, I'm like, this looks so good.
Like it just came out awesome. And huge shout out to my brother for the design and painting of the big logos you see in the middle of that. And then the second favorite is I can't spoil anything. It's upcoming. You'll see it, but it was a huge challenge we got to work on, and a lot of fun to make.
I was going to say there is one episode that we might have to invite you back for, because there's a big challenge episode we'll have to talk about when it comes up. But again, don't want to get anything. I actually, so we talked at great length in the first episode about the palanquin, and
it's impossible to say. Isaiah can say it, but
he can't. I was calling it a pelican for like a year and a half.
I think you just had it right. Pelican. I always
Pelican.
overpronounce the U is my problem. Like I at a queen. Like I get it wrong. The U is what trips me up, but there's a Q in it.
well, it's QU, yeah, PALQUE, right?
Yeah, it's double L.
QUIN. Pelican.
Who cares?
Okay, well,
I don't know. I can build it, but I can't pronounce it.
Spelling is made up. Spelling is fake.
Okay, so let me just ask about that, and we probably do got to jump because we're pushing 40 minutes at this point, which is longer than we like to go. But just about that, you were gonna know that people were going to like that. That was probably our biggest challenge. That it was safety had to be very much brought into the concern with that. So did you test it? Like, did you ride around with it? Or you have your brother's help? Like, did anybody actually ride that thing before the contestants were on it?
Yes, I did, and I put myself through it once, but I fixed that. But
Wait, really?
yeah, like one of the plank, because it was all pallet wood, so one spot just happened to be weak enough for my foot to break it. So not the end of the world. I'm glad it was me and not a contestant live while we were filming. But you would have never seen it on camera. But if you look underneath that thing, it's framed to hell. So that thing was never going to fall apart. So just keep adding supports to it all, and I knew at the end of the day no one was going to get hurt or fall, unless they fell off of it.
Yes,
it wasn't a failure.
No, I mean if they dropped it off, that's their fault. I mean those things were heavy. I think I helped you remember that morning because like we had to like assemble because there was a bunch of pieces that had to be assembled like morning up. And I remember, or was that? I don't know if that was the Pelican itself or if it was just the boards that actually hung the puzzle pieces. But I remember us having to do some assembly like at 6 a.m. as everybody was waking up and getting ready to go to that first challenge.
Oh yeah. Unfortunately, Gibson woke up to the sound of power tools that morning. It took 3 or 4 of us to move like the main bodies of them just to where they needed to be in the challenge, and then we just built them in place, and then it took probably 4 of us to move them away. It just, yeah, but we wanted them to be heavy. It was made for 6 people to be lifting, so I think it worked out well.
This has been fun, Mike. Thank you for having us. And by the way, Mike, do you want to plug your Etsy page while we're talking about your woodworking?
But that, I know, Liam links it at the end in all the credits, but it's etsy.com/Mike Casey Woodworking. I have the same handle on Instagram if you want to see my entire portfolio
What kind of
of
stuff
work.
do you specialize that is not Survivor challenges?
Stuff I make otherwise, it's majority cutting boards, charcuterie boards, serving platters, things like that. Sometimes bottle openers.
I can say as a former customer
them.
reviewer, I lived in an apartment where we had our cutting board was a Mike Casey original, and it was awesome. It's probably the best cutting board I've ever owned.
Yeah, I'm happy to say I've gotten no real complaints about anything. I haven't heard of anyone's breaking yet, so fingers crossed that holds up.
All right. Well, again, this has been great. Like I said, we'll probably have to have you back for another episode. We've got some more big challenges ahead that are really exciting, and we're going to want to talk about when they come up. We are beyond to merge. So this was episode 7 that we were just talking about. So next week, we've got episode 8 coming up. So we are fully, the game is very much afoot, and we are full steam ahead towards the last few episodes. 5 more episodes to go remaining this summer. Every one of those is going to be released Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard, just as the other ones have been. And these episodes are coming out on Friday. So if you've been enjoying this stuff, please comment, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Keep watching the episodes. Keep sharing them with your friends and family. And we thank you all for engaging in this show. It's been a lot of fun so far, and we've got a lot of good stuff ahead. Guys?
Yep, thanks. See you next week.
See you next week.
Hey, thanks for having me. Thanks for watching. We'll
Thanks,
see you.
Mike, thank you. All right. Everybody, have a nice night.